Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 176.
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear. And it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor.
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise.
Boom.
Etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you. Don't ask stupid questions. And don't wander off.
How can you kid this? I don't like the colour.
Howdy, howdy do, Who fans. Hope you've all had a fantastic week and you've managed to do something Doctor Who related. Fairly quiet this week.
Yeah.
For 176, not much kicking around. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What have you been up to though, buddy? Anything cool?
What have I been up to? I have been on the search for the new Mr. Men books. I went out shopping last Saturday and I wanted to get, they've just released the sort of the final four, so you can go. I'm a completist.
Of course. Yeah.
Of course. So I saw that Doctor 3, Doctor 5, Doctor 6 and Doctor... Who's the other one? 10. Doctor 10. So they've really finally sort of released them, and I thought, they're out. They're on the Forbidden Planet website as in stock. I must go out and find them. And I went everywhere and I couldn't find them. So I was a bit gutted because I had to do the grocery shop last weekend, and the only way I could get through it was to think it's all right because before I do the grocery shop, I'm going to get the Doctor Who books and I'll be happy, and I can do the grocery shop and come home and be happy. But no, I didn't find them, so I've had to come back and order them from our good friends at Forbidden Planet. They may even be arriving any time now. Actually, I got a little dispatch thing through saying that something's being delivered today. So they must have put them in with something else because they're not that expensive to warrant a recorded delivery. So they've obviously bunged a few things together, which is quite exciting. I like that. I'm thinking, what else have I ordered? Because I have been quite good lately. I haven't been ordering a lot, so they've probably thrown a few comics in there or something. So they're on the way. That's about the only thing I've been doing, really. I just was quite excited they'd finally been released. You've seen the covers for these, haven't you? Doctor 6, Colin. He's like a big pink round. I'd like to know what Colin thinks of that.
Yes. Got their hair down though.
Yeah, they got their head down.
Yeah.
But my friend Ben, who's a massive Sixth Doctor fan, I thought he'd hate it. As soon as I saw the cover, I thought, wait till Ben sees that.
Ben Lett,
and Host Productions, and he loved it. He really surprised me. I was like, Ben, have you seen the cover? Thinking he's gonna go mad, and he was like, yeah, I love it. It's brilliant. And I was like, oh right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think a couple of these are really good, and a couple of them are not hitting the mark. Still get them, but yeah.
I've got to complete the set.
Yeah, the Fifth Doctor one looks more like a one of the Mr. and Lady. What are they called? The
Little Miss.
Little Miss, yeah.
Has he got a cricket bat or something? I
yeah,
can't
he's
remember
got a little cricket bat. It's more the hairstyle and the hat that makes. And also the Third Doctor. I don't know what it is, but they've made him really, really round. He looks like a very fat John Pertwee.
And you I haven't got the picture in front of me, but as it sounds like you have. Somebody said to me, has he got a monocle?
It's hard to say. It looks like it. Yes, it does look like it.
Someone was saying, why have they given the Third Doctor a monocle? Because he never wore a monocle. That's the First Doctor. But so I think it might have been our friend Adam, Ultimate Whovian. I was thinking, I think you might be right. And I forgot to have a look at the cover. But yes, if that is true, that's a definite minus 1 point.
Yes, because it definitely, comparing it to the picture of the First Doctor and the way that they've designed the monocle for that figure.
Yeah,
it does look extremely similar. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't know if it's his cheekbone that they've just drawn in like a little. I don't know, but it's the size of the character that does it for me. Because if you look at the characters like the 9th Doctor, the 8th Doctor, and the 10th Doctor, and even the 1st Doctor to an extent, they're quite slim looking Mr. Men characters. Whereas for some reason, the 3rd Doctor looks like he's been on the old.
He looks like he's had a bit of
He's had a few months bender on the old curries and lager.
What is it? I was trying to think. I've always loved the line. I think it's in Day of the Daleks. He asked for some gorgonzola cheese or something. I was thinking, yeah, he's obviously had a few.
He's had
he's had a bit of cheese and crackers and a few ports. I think that. Yeah, I've got the picture in front of me now. That definitely looks like a monocle.
It does,
and a bow tie. Well, the bow tie can get away. What's he holding though? What's that? What's that supposed to be? Not a Sonic.
Well, I assume it's a Sonic. Yeah.
Looks like a
very bizarre.
Very bizarre. Anyway, I'll let you know when I've got the real thing in hand when they turn up, when they're thrown over the wall by the postman in a minute. But apart from that, I haven't been up to much, mate. The only other thing, I got a little bit excited yesterday because there was some pictures posted, some filming pictures from Series 11. Now, before anyone switches off, there's nothing spoilery, really. It was just pictures of our main cast that have all been announced, and we finally basically got a picture. We got to see the actual TARDIS prop because, I've been quite excited to see that since we got the promotional shot of it, because it did look very different on that promotional shot. And I didn't really like it. I'll be honest with you. I was like, what have they done to the TARDIS? But it was a sort of an animated version, wasn't it? So now we've seen some filming pictures. They were filming in Sheffield, weren't they?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, so we've actually got to see the genuine, real prop now. I think I'm starting to like it.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not. I don't think it's spoilery to say it's just darker, isn't it? It's a darker prop. The signage is a bit different. The pull to open signs different. It's the handles on the left, which I think that's the one bit I really don't like. Like it's got a different lamp, and I think the light might be blue.
It looks blue. Yeah.
So there's a few little minor alterations, but it does look really nice and chunky. And I am liking the sort of more darker color. It looks a bit more rustic and battered. So that's good. That's definitely good. I think it's just that pull to open sign I don't like. It's just having the handle on the other side. It just sort of looks a bit messy somehow because you've got sort of two handles.
Yeah.
Whereas they sort of used to be close together. Now they're spaced out, and I don't know. I think that's the only bit that I haven't quite come round to, because the rest of the prop I'm quite liking. And I don't know about you, mate, but there's a shot of Bradley coming out with the prop, Bradley Walsh. And I don't know about you, but I kept thinking, I was trying to sort of, I'd love to see, what does it look like inside? I was thinking, what is the inside going to be like? And either they're not going to do, because in the David Tennant era, and since the new series come back, they've always put like a back projection in the TARDIS prop of the actual TARDIS interior. Now, either they're not doing that this time around, or nobody managed to get a photo of it, because I kept thinking surely somebody's managed to get a sneaky pic when they've opened the door of something inside to give us a clue, but I haven't seen anything, which is not a bad thing, because that's one thing I don't want spoiled actually is the interior.
I think it depends on the shot though, because if he's coming out at a certain angle, they don't really bother. I think it's only when both doors are open and you've got a clear view. And sometimes that's done in post-production.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, it does depend. It's all exciting, though.
It is exciting, yeah.
Yeah. I quite like this TARDIS,
You liking it?
Yeah, I really like the shape. It's got, like you said, it's got a chunkier kind of, it's not the tall, thin, very royal blue-ish that we've been used to the last few years. The paint job's cool. It's got like this messy kind of dark paint on top of this lighter blue. Makes it really dark and grungy almost. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the lamp, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the lamp. As I said, the lamp and the door, the pull to open door, they're the two bits I'm just not too sure about. But I like the actual overall style of it. Also, really nice to see, like my whole Twitter feed pretty much yesterday was filled with pictures of people meeting Jodie. She obviously took a break during filming to come and meet the fans watching. And that was really nice to see her interacting so well with the fans and having loads of selfies and stuff. And I know when she did a recent appearance at Radio 1, there was some YouTube footage uploaded of all the dealers ruining it, and it got a bit nasty, and it was a very pleasant experience for Jodie. And I think people were worried that might have put her off, being so interactive with fans. So it's really nice to see yesterday that it was all apparently a very good, experience. Everybody was patient, took their turns. There was no dealers apparently pushing in and going round and round 10 times to get lots of autographs, pushing fans out of the way. Apparently there was none of that. It was just, people in Sheffield, the fans went down to watch it being filmed. The crew were apparently really good. The security were really good. So it's just nice to see that there was a good experience yesterday after what happened the last time at Radio 1. So
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, obviously I was very jealous. I was like, oh no, how far is Sheffield? Can I get there? I was like, love to have gone down and met them and watched that being filmed. But yeah, it's good. Interesting
that they've travelled up to Sheffield for that.
Yeah.
Because up until, I know not every single time, but they've normally managed the location scouts and so on have managed to find pretty good locations in and around Wales. So interesting that they couldn't find anything there, or it was just a decision right from the beginning to broaden the locations a little bit. But yeah, interesting.
I hope so, mate, because I mean, that's one thing I think we picked up on, that we started noticing the same locations being redressed a lot of the time during the Moffat era. So I think it is good that they've moved and found somewhere else, because Cardiff did a great job of providing many locations, quite a lot of the time doubling for London, and it worked very well. But I think we were starting to see like the same streets and sometimes the same interior. I always think of that marble room. I don't know what building it is, but that marble set, so it's in the end of the world, the Ninth Doctor story with the face of Bo and all that. That marble room, I mean, that got used in loads. It's in Let's Kill Hitler, and it was in, it's been in lots of them. And every time I saw that room, I was thinking, they're using that room again. So it's good. It's good that they've moved and found a different place and new locations. And they've been filming abroad, I think, as well. So, yes, it just makes me very, very excited.
Yes.
To see Series 11. There is one thing, though, that I'm not very excited about, and this could be considered very minor spoiler, but there is a shot of the Doctor wearing a bum bag in one of the filming pics.
Oh yeah. You're not a fan of the old fanny pack?
And I'm not. No, I'm not a fan of the fanny pack. No. I don't know. It just looked a bit silly. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hoping that's part of a story and not a regular thing. Because I'm not sure I like the idea of the Doctor pulling out a Sonic out of a fanny pack. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
I don't know, mate. Bow ties were made cool. Now bum bags could be made cool again.
Again, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll wait and pass judgment on that one.
Yeah, I'll hold off on that one. Yeah. But yeah, it's just nice to see. Nothing too spoilery in those filming pics. It was just nice to give us a little buzz for Series 11. So, yeah. And
just lastly, I like that they've gone back to the standard. I say standard. The normal windows. Because some of them have been frosted, some of them have been blue. They've alternated the design of the windows.
Yeah.
So now they've just gone back to the standard. Everything's just plain. It's a bit more of a minimal look. I like it.
Yeah. I must admit, I didn't think I liked that, but I do now. I've seen the actual thing, because I liked the fact. I remember when Moffat changed the windows to the sort of being a bit different, and I liked that, but they seem sort of inconsistent somehow. Sometimes they look dark, sometimes they look frosted, and I can never work out what's going on. I think it looks good like this. Yeah.
So nothing else from us really. It's been fairly quiet. Shall we land it? Talking of the TARDIS, shall we land it and do some news?
Yes.
So the only bit of news we have on the radar today, full-time author Tommy Donbavand went through quite a serious illness recently where he had cancer, essentially. And although he went on to get rid of that and, was cancer-free, what then happened was something else shifted and he ended up with a tumour on his lung, which is very unfortunate. And at the time when he was going through his cancer, a bunch of people created this really cool book called Target for Tommy, which is as the name suggests, it's a book that was released in the old Target style cover and so on, which was a collection of short stories to raise money for him to aid in his recovery and so on. So this second one is the same concept, where because it sort of stopped his ability to go out and do school visits and extra stuff on top of his writing, it's sort of limited his income, obviously, and the support for his family. So the second one now, which is called A Second Target for Tommy, is another collection of short stories. But what makes this book particularly cool is that Stephen Moffat, the old mothball, has contributed something amazing into the book, and that is the early scripts that he wrote for The Day of the Doctor, which were actually going to feature Chris Eccleston, which were, as we all know, came to nothing. He's actually given them to this project so that they're going to be in the book. So we'll actually get to see and read, the concept behind Matt Smith and David Tennant's Doctor, how they would have met up with the Ninth Doctor and their interactions and so on. Now, I would never have guessed that the Moff would have released these scripts, because when we asked him questions and when people asked him questions at the showing of The Day of the Doctor, he was I asked him a question about the Ninth Doctor, and somebody else did as well, and he was very, the story would have been very similar. There wasn't much change, and Chris is fine. It felt like he was very much just whatever. The Ninth Doctor wasn't in it. Get over it.
Kind of brushed it off, didn't he? Yeah.
So it's really, really cool that that he's just released this script to be published as a sort of an independent book, because it's nothing to do with the BBC or anything. So a bit of a pat on the back for the Moff, I'd say, on this one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So you can pick up the book if you head over. We'll put a link in the show notes, but if you head over to obversebooks.co.uk, you can find it there. It's in paperback at the moment, and it's £15. And it's not like with some things where a percentage goes to a charity and so on. Every single penny in sales from the book will go towards Tommy's recovery and helping him, get through this second illness that he's developed. So, good cause.
It's a really, like you said, it's a really good thing. That it's funny because we said at the time, didn't we, when we were at the thing with the Moff, wouldn't it be great to see that script, like his original? Because he said he'd sort of wrote, a third of it or something, and we both were saying, God, I'd love to see that, to see how it would have been. I'm surprised the Moff didn't mention this when you asked him. He could have give the book a little plug, couldn't he? Could have been, well, if you want to see that script, you want to go and buy this book. Unless one of his team's like, someone's phoned the press office. Have you got anything you could I know, have this old script that's in the bin. Stephen's left the building. But no, that is really cool. Yeah, and well worth getting, isn't it, I think, for that. So.
And Tommy himself is a full-time author, and he's wrote loads and loads of very cool children's books. There's a popular series called Scream Street, which he wrote quite a few books for that. But he was the author of one of the Matt Smith novels, The Shroud of Sorrow.
Oh, right. Cool.
So that's his link to Doctor Who, obviously. But yeah, so we'll put a link in the show notes. If that's the sort of thing you enjoy, it's worth it for those abandoned scripts alone. So go and pick that up. It's a good cause.
Yes.
And that's all the news. I suppose we should get our Dalek friend in.
Oh, I suppose so. What's he got? There's not much on his tray this morning, but looks. Yeah, get him in. Let's have a look. See what he's got.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
What's that on the end of his sucker?
Let me just.
What's that glinting away?
Let me just have a look. Has anyone out there got a loved one?
Appropriate for the day we're recording, Valentine's Day.
Yes. Has anyone got any future betrothed or a future long-term partner that they wish to bestow upon some beautiful TARDIS jewellery? Well, you're in luck, because The fine jewellers over at Bradford Exchange have released a very fetching, very striking-looking ladies' TARDIS ring, and it's completely it's officially licensed. There's no tomfoolery here. It's sterling silver with 18-karat gold plating and topaz stones. It's exclusive to the Bradford Exchange, and it will set you back approximately 120 English pounds.
Wowzers.
Well, if she's worth it, then the money's not a problem, is it?
If you want it, then you better put up on it.
Yeah, so this looks... I'm always very dubious about sci-fi jewelry, franchise jewelry. I think it's a better way to say it. That's not me being, I don't know, I just find it, even some of the stuff that is obviously well made, because
I don't know what the cuckoo clock just, it's not jewelry, but that cuckoo clock just suddenly
the TARDIS weird thing.
Yeah, the weird TARDIS cuckoo clock.
Yeah, very strange.
Not jewelry, but yeah. Dubious somehow brought that into my mind. Yeah,
I just find it very strange. And I thought about this when I was in the Who shop a couple of weekends ago, because perusing the glass cabinet in there, I noticed they've got that nice the blue TARDIS wristwatch, the men's watch, which goes for about £200, I think.
Yeah,
but I still wouldn't. I don't know. It's one of those things, in my personal opinion, where even if this ring was like £5,000 or whatever, diamonds, whatever, to me it would still look like it's not that amount of money, because it's a franchised based bit of jewelry. It always looks like it's just a fan made bit of jewelry from Etsy or something like that,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
However, I'm sure that there are plenty of Doctor Who fans who would completely disagree with that and would love to buy their fair lady a nice TARDIS ring. So if that's your cup of tea, head over to bradford.co.uk and you'll be able to see it on there. There's also a bunch of listings on Amazon, which is very, very, very odd, because Bradford say that it's exclusive only to them. But then you can pick it up on their Amazon store as well. So, yes. And I think they've got all the different sizes on Amazon, which they don't have on the Bradford site, strangely. But there you go. Yeah.
Is there? I was going to say, they're specifically labelling this as a ladies' TARDIS ring. That's not us putting words in their mouth. That's what it says on the website. So is there a man? Is there a male ring as well? Is there a matching? Can you get a set, or is it just...
At the moment, it doesn't really say anything that... Well, with that... It says a lady's ring, but I'm guessing that's just a guide rather than an instruction. So any male Doctor Who jewellery wearing fans out there, crack on.
Yeah, I was going to say, as jewellery goes, I will say it's not. The design is not that bad. I mean, it like you said, it can very often come across as tacky, can't it? Sometimes,
yeah, a little bit.
This isn't that bad. It's kind of like the TARDIS, and then either side of it, you've got the Gallifreyan symbols, sort of holding up the TARDIS in the middle, if you like, and then two bands, gold and silver. It's all right, isn't it? I can imagine some people might quite like this.
Yeah, it's okay. And then, so the two circles on either side, the Gallifreyan symbols. In the middle is the TARDIS with the topaz stones, and inside the band it says "True Companion." That's engraved on the inside of the band. So it's, don't get me wrong, it's very, very lovey-dovey and cute. So and I know a few couples who would love this. A couple of people that we know who are massive sci-fi geeky people who are absolutely into this stuff. So they would absolutely love it.
And it comes in a big case by the looks of it. I'm just looking at the box, actually. It looks like it comes in like a massive box with I don't know if that's a certificate or a booklet or something, because like you said, it's officially licensed, so it looks like they've sort of gone to town with the packaging a little bit.
It's a certificate.
I'm just thinking, though, imagine getting down on one knee and having that massive box, and you think, oh, what's in there? A nice big necklace, or this is just a huge box with a tiny TARDIS ring in it. But no, it does look, presentation and stuff's quite nice to them.
Yeah.
So
it does have a touch of the Alan Partridges about it.
Yeah.
Yes, excuse me, darling. Yes, I was going to go and propose to you, but before I do so, if you wouldn't mind checking the certificate of authenticity just to make sure that I haven't skimped on it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Very, very nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
Yes. Rightio. No more news and merch.
No.
It's time to go back to the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Well, say the Dark Ages. Is it that far back? I don't know. Witches and stuff.
Voodoo and bits.
What are we doing this week, Adam, for our review?
Can only be the Shakespeare Code.
The Globe Theatre.
Soon, at the hour of woven words, we shall rise again, and this fleeting earth will perish.
Mr. Shakespeare, isn't it?
No autographs.
Love's Labour's One will never be played.
So many strange events.
Witchcraft.
Upon this night, the work is done.
No!
The entire future of the human race. It ends right now in 1599 if we don't stop it.
Bada boom!
That's quite good.
They come! They come!
Ooh, witches. Burn thee.
Burn thee, foul knave. Oh, you know who's needed in this?
Oh, he would have been great in this.
Wouldn't he just?
Michael Robbins.
Yeah.
What was his character called?
Oh, crikey, they've missed a trick there.
Should have got him back. Actually, he might have passed before, but I don't know. Anyway.
That's true, yeah. Didn't think that through.
League.
Witches. The Shakespeare Code was thrust upon our screens on the 7th of April 2007.
Gosh.
It was written by Gareth Roberts and directed by Charles Palmer. It stars the TARDIS team of the 10th Doctor and Martha Jones. At this point in time, the Doctor is very humpy and depressingly piney-whiny over Rosie Wosie.
Yeah.
And so Martha is not quite filling the gap at the moment. So he's kind of promised her a one-time trip and then he's going to drop her back. And on this supposedly one-time trip, they go back to Shakespeare time. And she's all excited and they get to the Globe Theatre, which is all shiny and new. And it turns out that Shakespeare is actually a bit of an idiot. He's an intelligent idiot, if that makes sense. There are no air and graces about him. All this all the history that's been written about Shakespeare goes out the window immediately when he opens his mouth on the stage. And it turns out he's a bit of a rogue, a bit of a lad, a bit of a chatter-upper, if you like. But the only reason that he's putting these plays out is because these aliens called the Carrionites, I believe, who come across as sort of medieval witches, are sort of using him as a tool so that he can write down these sort of mystic phrases and words to open up a portal to bring their kind back and take over the earth. And the Doctor and Martha, sort of their nice little back in time, little stroll around Shakespeare land gets disrupted as they try and defeat said Carrionites and stop history from being changed and the earth being overrun by cackling witches. The Shakespeare Code. Series 3 shenanigans. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah. Right. So just backtracking slightly, when this first aired, I remember watching this, and this story did nothing for me back then, back in 2007. I just found it quite dull. And as I said, it sort of finished. And I thought, as I said, I remember feeling nothing for it. Like, didn't dislike it, didn't like it. It's just real meh of a story. So I haven't watched this one a great deal since then. I may have watched it once more at some point, I think. I'm sure I probably watched it again when I bought the DVD set. But that would have been ages ago. So, yeah, I bunged it on last night, not really expecting to feel much for it at all. But I actually quite enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. It had a more heart to it than I remembered, and I did really quite like the chemistry between the Doctor and Martha. I thought they sparred off each other quite well in this, so that helped carry the story. So while not great, my appreciation of the story has gone up slightly. Well, it's gone up definitely from when I first watched this back in 2007. So yeah, it's not brilliant, I don't think, but it was very watchable, and yeah, it wasn't too bad. I would say it's a decent watch, I thought, having rewatched it. What do you reckon?
Okay. Yes, I think this one it's interesting on my point of view, because I do think it's a fairly decent watch. It's quite an enjoyable watch, and I do quite like it for the most part.
Yeah.
My only sort of thing with it is that sometimes I feel like it can't quite decide what it wants to be for me, because I think it could have been a belter of a story to fit in with a very, very good series. Actually, series 3 was very, very good.
I like series 3. Yeah,
and this could have been one of the best stories if it had gone down a certain path and stuck to it. And what I mean by that is, for me personally, I would have liked to have seen this being more of a scarier story and really play on the witchcraft element and the witches and stuff, and make them a bit more scarier. Because a lot of the times it tries to do a lot of humour in pretty much every scene.
Yeah,
with the exception of the couple of the witches scenes and the death scenes. With the exception of those, it's very. I think they try to do a very witty, quick, humorous kind of episode, and sort of inject these little pockets of witchy stuff in between. But I would have liked to have seen more of the witchcrafty stuff and try to be a bit more scary along those lines. But other than that, I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's a good watch. I wouldn't say it's up there with, classic, modern classics and so on. But yes, it's okay.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think you're right. I think it could have been, but for some reason it doesn't quite hit the mark. And watching it last night, I was trying to figure out why. I almost wish actually I'd given it. I almost wish I'd watched it more over the years, because normally if we review an episode, I've seen it a good 3 or 4 times before I rewatch it for the podcast. I always watch a story before we record, even if I think I know the story, word for word. I always rewatch them. But for this one, because I haven't watched it very much, it did feel a little bit like watching it cold again. And I just kept thinking that there's some really good stuff in here. And it looks really good as well. I mean, there's a lot of CGI in it. And although it looks dated, I think it really suits the story, actually. Right. It's almost sort of almost animated in places, the CGI. But I think it looks quite nice. May not look realistic, but I think it looks nice. Does that make sense? It sort of suits the style of the story. But yeah, it just never quite hits the mark. And if I was to try and work out why, I think, you're quite right. I think tonally it's a little bit all over the place. And I think the witches, I think it might be that the witches let it down, because they're quite pantomime. If I was to say to you, how does a witch act? It does a cackling laugh and it's got a really crazy face all the time. And to me, they don't look very good. To me, the masks look really rubbery, and I don't know, they're just not very convincing. I actually think they're scarier when they're, well, actually, it's only really one, isn't it?
Lilith.
Lilith. I think she's actually better when she's in human form, because she's really good in it, I think. She plays that evil part quite well, especially when she's knocking out one of the Doctor's hearts. So she's quite good in it, and she brings a sense of, threat. Whereas I don't think the witches really do for me. When they're sort of cackling on screen and laughing, I just felt they let the story down slightly. And like you said, they could have well played on the witchcraft, because the death scene that they do near the beginning with the guy choking on the water is really quite nasty. That's and again, I was thinking this is quite horrible, quite dark. So yeah, they could have played up more to that and brought a more sense of danger into it, I think. So maybe that's what's missing. I really can't put my finger on it, but I think it's just that sort of sense of maybe not the threat, but the overall tone of it just seems a little bit all over the place. And it doesn't reach the great heights that it seems to sort of almost be clawing the walls to get to. Like you said, production's great. You've got the Shakespeare element to it, which I think is really good, actually. He's kind of the rock and roll Shakespeare, nothing like, he's sort of we've been led to believe he's like. There's a great line in it when the Doctor says, "Don't keep rubbing your head, you'll go bald," or something. It's referring to the fact that all images of Shakespeare, he's got a beard and a bald head and all that. So there's some lovely moments like that. I think the Shakespeare part works well, but I don't know, something's missing, and I'm not sure what it is, but it just doesn't reach the heights of greatness that I think it really could have done. But it's almost there. I think it's got it's got some nice moments. It's almost there.
No, I totally agree. I think Lilith when she's turned into a human form is quite scary.
She's good.
There's
I like her.
A couple of really creepy scenes where she appears at Shakespeare's window when he's writing the play Love's Labours 1 overnight, and she sort of knocks him out, and then he's like a human puppet. She gets him to write. She's really creepy. But the thing, I think you're right, because they're meant to be, the humans view them as witches. I think they went down the typical Halloween-y style. Because there's a bit where when she's killed, I think she's like the lady who runs the pub or the inn, Shakespeare's bit on the side. When Lilith kills her, and then she grabs the broomstick and she's out the window.
Flies off. Yeah.
She flies past the moon and she's got that big cackly laugh, like you said. Those are the elements and I completely understand why they did that, because you can only make Doctor Who, scary to a point. You can't make it too frightening, because then you sort of alienate the younger audience, because parents are like, you can't really watch it. You don't want to get into a situation where parents are saying, well, you can't watch that one, it's too scary, but you can watch these ones, they're okay. You don't want that. So you can completely understand why, but it just felt a bit Halloween gimmicky type of, so of those bits aside, I mean, it's a bit like when you say something's missing, it's almost like you're looking for, another shock factor, because the scene near the beginning where the guy who runs the playwright stuff, I think, he's having a good old go at Shakespeare, and he's like, this is not going to happen until I've seen it, and so on.
Yeah.
And then Lilith does that thing where she drowns the little puppet, and then he, it's quite horrific to see. So that was a bit of a shock factor, but after that point, there wasn't really much else that gave you that shock factor, because when she killed the innkeeper lady, you don't see it. You just see her lying on the floor looking completely normal afterwards, So there's nothing else after that, because that's what I was looking for. I remember when I first watched it, I was sort of waiting right up until the end. I thought, is there going to be a big sort of witchy, witchcrafty battle monster scene? And, I don't want to turn it into a bit of a Hollywood, hocus pocus kind of thing, but that I was looking for something a bit more after that scene, because I thought that was going to set the tone for the episode, but then it was just quite light-hearted and funny after that point. And the only other scary-ish bit I found was when they went to see the architect of the globe. He's in the madhouse, isn't he?
Oh yeah, that was good.
Appropriately called Bedlam. And or Bethlehem.
Is that where she kills him with her finger or something?
Yeah.
So that was quite a good scene, actually.
Yeah, because the guy that was playing it, he looked, properly messed up, and he looked.
I recognise him. Is that guy at a Peep Show? I can't think of his name. Because I kept thinking all the way through, I know him, and it's unusual to see him in such a small supporting role. But again, he was really good in it, and that is a good scene, because obviously they're kind of trapped in there with that witch, and again, like you said, it brought a bit of tension to the episode, which was sort of missing up until that point, didn't it?
Yes.
But then I do like the way the Doctor banishes her as well with the words. I thought that's quite cool. Especially when Martha tries to do it later on, the same thing, and it doesn't work.
Fail, yeah.
Yeah, epic fail. Yeah.
So I think it's lacking just one final ingredient, I would say.
Maybe a rewrite, perhaps like that last rewrite or something, just to sort of, smooth off a few edges or something. Because as I said, when it ended, actually this time, that bit with the Queen Elizabeth coming in at the end and chase her, I thought that's really funny, and I'd completely forgotten that. That was a really nice way to end the episode. It's a good way of sort of hurrying them off to the next adventure and tying everything up, very nicely. So that was cool. I don't know. It just sort of drifts. It's a drifting episode. It's one you can put on quite happily watch. It's kind of harmless, isn't it? But it's not one you'd say, oh, series 3, make sure you watch the show so you go, that's a really good one. It doesn't hit those levels. And it probably should have done, because where was this in series 3? Episode 2, is it?
The second one, yeah. So it was after Smith and Jones.
Martha's going off on her. Well, the Doctor says, doesn't he, one and only adventure. This is, and obviously we know that she goes on for a whole series. So, a lot of people don't like, because as we're talking about Martha and her one and only adventure, it's clear that the Doctor doesn't want a companion after Rose. He's still sort of dealing with the whole losing Rose situation. And you can understand that in terms of him saying to Martha, this is the only trip you're having because I'm not having a companion. Well, that's okay. But I think a lot of other people don't like the bit where they're on the bed and Martha's clearly sort of getting into the Doctor, and he's like, oh, Rose would know what to do. And I agree, because even from the first time I watched this, I remember thinking, oh, that's harsh, because that just makes Martha seem worthless. And she's so not. I mean, I know she goes on to prove it later in the series, but it is one of those moments in the episode where I think to myself, oh, I like that bit. It's as if like Rose is the be all and end all. It reminds me of a little bit of the Clara situation.
Right.
Oh, right. My Clara, this sort of fawning around over one companion, as if they're the be all and end all. When the Doctor's had some magnificent companions over the years that didn't even get mentioned, like Sarah Jane. Apparently he never spoke about her, but somehow Rose and Clara have made this massive impact on him. And it's more of a modern series thing, but you know what I'm saying. It's a bit of a, why is Rose so much better than Martha? Because in my opinion, she's not. And I think by the end of it, the Doctor sees that. But it is one of those moments, isn't it? And a lot of people pick up on it. They're like, the Doctor's still moping around over Rose. Let's get over it. Let's get into series 3 and move on from all that. Yeah.
And it's also, and this is probably a wider discussion, but it does also play into that thing with the modern series that
it does. Yeah.
Where they've sort of made the Doctor this kind of emotional attachment to the companion that we didn't have in the classic series, really, where the Doctor's very much seen as boyfriend material as opposed to the Doctor, and we had a lot of it with Rose, an awful lot of that. She was always, pining after him, and and then when Martha came along, that's potentially a fresh start. It's a bit like, I mean, we had it with Donna. Donna didn't tolerate any of that.
I love that.
At all. But it was just another companion straight after the last one that immediately fancied him, and at the Doctor's, he's a little bit. You can't really blame Martha in a way, because if you think back to Smith and Jones, when she first sees him and he's lying there, well, not when she very first sees him, because there's a bit of a timey-wimey bit at the beginning where he bumps into her. But when she sees him in the hospital, he shoots her a little wink, and then...
Yeah, a little cheeky wink.
Yeah, and then he plants a big kiss on her in that episode as well.
Yeah.
So you can't really blame her, really. She probably thinks, oh, this guy's, he's clearly into me.
And he's taking her away to show her all these amazing, in a time machine.
Exactly.
And you can't help but think, oh, they must like me. I don't blame Martha at all. I just feel sorry for her when he says that. This whole thing of the Doctor companion thing, I much prefer it in the classic series when he's just alien to it all. And I always think that the best sort of Doctor companion relationship was sort of really done sort of in the, like they did it in the Pertwee era, where he was like a very protective. He was like the grandfather figure to sort of Joe Grant. I love that because you can see the affection those two had. And I always think the Doctor and Jo were great as Doctor and companion. So that's the sort of thing I would prefer it to be, rather than this sort of almost love interest of what goes on in the TARDIS when the cameras aren't rolling, sort of thing. I don't like that. I prefer it when the Doctor's a bit more alien grandfather figure. And you're right, it's a more of a new series thing, isn't it?
I think so.
They've gone down that road, because I think Russell felt, and to a point he may have been right, but I think Russell felt to a modern audience we needed that sort of love interest, almost slightly soap opera-ish thing, when the series come back. But I think by series 3 we could have moved on from that, and Martha could have been that strong companion that the Doctor looked after, rather than kept knocking back and this whole love story thing again. I
know what you mean, though, especially when I think back to, you remember the Green Death?
Oh yeah.
When Jo
leaves at the end.
Yeah, and back in that, he was. You're absolutely right. He had this kind of protective view, and when she went off, and whereas in the modern series, like they've done with Tennant and Billy Piper, it's almost, they almost were sort of boyfriend and girlfriend for a while. That's what it felt like, and then we had Martha, obviously pining after the Doctor as well immediately. And then we had it again with Amy. Do you remember Amy when she was first with the Doctor? She was all over him, so I think the only sort of companions we haven't had like that is Clara and Donna, I suppose.
Well, Clara, she was a bit towards the 11.
A little bit,
wasn't she?
Yeah.
It's only when it changes to 12 that goes out the window. Poor Rockefeller. But no, that's why I think series 4 is so fresh, because Donna's the absolute opposite. She's like, "You're not mating with me, mate." That sort of stuff. It's brilliant. And it's kind of, it needed to happen, because if by series 4 you'd had another companion and fawning after the Doctor, it really would start to get annoying. I don't mind it so much with Martha, because I really like Martha as a companion, and I think she naturally, probably like you just said, she probably would fall for the Doctor, to be fair to her, after all the stuff they've gone through. But the other reason I don't mind it so much with Martha is because I love the bit at the end when she leaves, and she sort of finally realised the Doctor's not interested, and she gives that great speech about, my friend told me, get out while you can, all that sort of stuff. Don't waste your time, and I like that speech. So that's the only reason I don't mind Martha fancying the Doctor, because I like that bit at the end, and she finally realises. But with Rose, it just got a bit too much, I thought. All the crying and hands on the wall, and it was just all a bit much.
It was a little bit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I agree, though. I think Martha's a good companion, and she often gets sort of pushed to the background, really.
Yeah.
Whenever you're talking to Who fans about the modern series, Martha hardly ever gets a mention, because it's always Rose or Clara, like you said, or probably Donna after that. And so she kind of sort of gets not forgotten, but she rarely gets a look in, especially in, if you did a poll of like, polls are pointless, but if you did a poll of like Who fans' top 5 companions, she probably wouldn't feature that high in the majority. But I think she's a good companion. I really like Martha.
I do. Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people, and it always amazes me when people say they don't like her. I know a lot of, there is a part of fandom that think, and I think a lot of it is because of the fact that she does like the Doctor. I think it's not necessarily her character, but a lot of people don't like the fact that she's another companion that fancies the Doctor. But no, I really like her. In fact, she is probably, from the new series, for want of a better word, she's probably my second favourite companion. Donna's my first, and then probably Martha, then Rose. Who have I missed?
Amy and Clara.
Amy and Clara are kind of joint last. Yeah. But yeah, I really rate her. I think she's probably my second favourite. I like her.
I think for the most part she is good. She does provide a little bit of pushback to the Doctor. She's not complete. She wasn't like Rose, where she was just, flirting all over the place all the time and blinking her, flashing the eyelashes and all that. She wasn't like that the whole time. There were times where she did kind of put her foot down and, and got on with it. which is good. The only thing I would say about Freema is that there are times where I think, the acting chops are not quite, because when she's next to somebody like David Tennant, who's one of the best actors that we've seen, I think he's established himself as one of the best actors, from the UK, I would say, in current times. When she's next to somebody like that, who's, I don't want to go overboard, but is pretty much faultless with his acting ability, and he's sort of wielded his craft, so to speak. Especially with the character acting, like the Doctor. And when there are certain scenes where the way she delivers certain lines or the way she is, it just feels a little bit like she's fresh out of acting school. That's what it feels like. So although her acting chops sometimes are not quite there to match somebody like David Tennant and so on, I think that she gave it, a really good shot for the series that she was involved with it.
Yeah, I guess so. I think she probably was quite new at drama school, wasn't she? I don't think she'd done a lot before this. I'm not too sure. Sometimes it feels like that. I must admit, I think she's, in terms of her acting, I think a lot of the time she's quite good. I think she really hits her mark later on in the series when we get to the two-parter of, what's it called? The one with the
Family
school. Family of Blood, yes, yeah, that two-parter. I think she's great in that, and I think she's really good at the, towards the end, as I said, the series final of series 3. So for me, I don't, I can totally see what you're saying. There are moments. I think when she tries to do the death by word scene in this, she's a little bit, the acting isn't great, but I think overall she's pretty consistent. I do like her
overall.
Yeah.
And she's also. I think she only had sort of smaller parts before Doctor Who. I think she had just like one episode here and there, or a couple of episodes, and
I think she's better. I think she's better when it's just her, because the stories where she's with her family, I find they sort of drag her down a bit, because I don't think the actors who played Martha's family in this were particularly great.
Yes.
So I always think she's sort of stronger, like I said, in that two-parter, Family of Blood. Human Nature, isn't it, the other part?
That's right.
I think she's great in stories like that, but I think sometimes the one when she's her family start getting involved, although her sister actually is not bad. It's quite good in it, if I remember rightly. But yeah,
I think she is. She got really good reviews in an American TV series that she was in. I think it just literally got cancelled. What was it called? Sense8.
Right, yeah.
She got really, really good reviews for that. So I'm yet to see that. But she's in a few episodes of Torchwood, actually, and she's not too bad in Torchwood.
And wasn't she supposed to... I don't know how true this is, but I remember Russell was quite annoyed because she was supposed to be full-time in Torchwood after this, wasn't she?
Supposed to be, yeah.
In whatever series that would have been. And then she dropped out quite late in the production stage. I can't, this is a long time ago I read this story, so take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, because I don't know the facts or behind it. But I do remember reading that she dropped out. She couldn't decide if she wanted to do it or not. I think he'd written quite a lot of the scripts with her in for whatever series of Torchwood that would have been, and then she dropped out to do something else. I think it was Law and Order or something, and he was apparently quite annoyed about it because it was quite late in the stages. But maybe she just kind of thought, if I do Torchwood, I'm still associated with Doctor Who, and I made a bit of a name for myself. Maybe I ought to try it and do something else. I don't know. And she's obviously gone on to do good things, but it would have been interesting to see her in Torchwood. You do get that vibe as well. When the Doctor goes back to see everyone, and it's her and Mickey, isn't it, are out fighting with great big guns, and you do get that vibe that she might have gone on to be in Torchwood. I think it would have been quite cool, actually, just to have popped up in that.
Well, she was in it, wasn't she, for a few episodes?
Yeah, she does pop up in it, yeah.
She's not like the main cast, but when she is in it, you can tell that she's sort of her shoulders are a bit lower, if that makes any sense. She's not as... it doesn't look like she's trying too hard. She's a bit more natural in Torchwood, I found. So great companion. Old Martha Jones.
Martha Jones. And I think her and Tennant, because obviously it's early days for them. One thing I did enjoy about this, watching it again, was they do seem to work well together.
They do.
Like the humour, the banter, the chemistry between them, I think is pretty good from the off, actually. Yeah, because she's really excited to be going on this adventure with him, and he's loving showing her and being the big I am. And I just thought they worked very well together. Considering, like I said, this is only the second story together. I don't know where it came in production, but yeah, I thought they worked well together in this.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about the other sort of main cast member, I suppose, which was William Shakespeare himself, by Dean Lennox Kelly. What do you reckon to him? Because I think he really nailed the kind of Shakespeare that they were after. It's interesting when Doctor Who does these kind of historicals, because they try and be quite accurate with it. If we think to Vincent and the Doctor, they try to portray him as very, spot on according to history and so on. And you would imagine, because the casting was bang on for Vincent and the Doctor, you would imagine that, based on their research and so on, that's what Van Gogh would have been like. Whereas this one is a complete the other end of the spectrum. It's like, forget everything that you've read about Shakespeare and what you thought he might have been like. He's a complete opposite of what you think he's like. And I think that Dean Lennox Kelly really maybe the director just said, look, please just forget about old England Shakespeare. You're not like that at all. You're a typical lad. You're a witty talker, you're a bit of a ladies' man. Just play it up, just be this sort of suave, kind of charming, bit of a lad. So in a way, I really like that they did that, because it kind of comes back to what I said earlier about it pushes everything towards that more humorous side of things, because he is pretty funny in most of the scenes that he's in.
Yeah.
And he plays it really well. And I think that, although I would have liked to have seen the episode draw that stuff back in a bit and go more towards the scary side, if we are talking about this from more of a humorous point of view, he definitely contributes to a lot of that. Yeah,
no, I'd agree. I think it's a brave move on their part as well, because, like you said, they're very much going against type with how they've characterised Shakespeare in this. I think Dean Lennox Kelly does a great job, actually. I think he's one of the highlights of the episode. He's really good when he's sparring off with the Doctor as well. Him and Tennant work brilliantly together in this. I think, little scenes like at the end where the Doctor gives him the ruff to wear around his neck, and all the little sort of lines that the Doctor throws at him that are actually his lines anyway. All of that stuff's fantastic. But it was a brave move, because I think I remember at the time, before this episode aired, they were talking about making Shakespeare, like they were going to make him a bit more rock and roll than people might expect. I remember thinking, what does that mean? That could have been a disaster if they hadn't got the right person. I think because it's not really anything like, if you see pictures of Shakespeare, he's nothing really like this. But I think it was a brave move, and I think it's one they pull off, and I think it works really well. And I think a lot of that's down to the actor. Where do I know him from? Like Shameless and stuff like that. I've seen him in things like that before. He's a good actor, Dean Lennox Kelly.
He is very good.
But I think it works really well. This sort of rock and roll Shakespeare, and I think at the time as well, hopefully it may have sort of made younger viewers sort of think, who's this Shakespeare? It might have just sort of pushed Shakespeare into the subconscious of a younger audience as well, because obviously Doctor Who's pretty much at its peak when this aired. So I like it when Doctor Who does that. I'm trying to think of other, like you said, like Vincent van Gogh and Charles Dickens and all that. So I like it when they do bring in real life characters like that perhaps younger audience might not have heard of or had any interest in, that might then go and have a look and say, oh, okay, that's what he did. And, so that's cool. But yeah, I really like him in this. I think he's a really good performance. Yeah,
he kind of makes the episode what it is, really, because without a strong actor to sort of give off that, because I would imagine as an actor landing that role, you kind of have to have a little bit of, zero beeps given about how you're perceived. You just have to just crack on and just really try and be sort of super confident and just really make, get the audience to look at you, the whole time. And I think he does that. He really does that quite well.
He seems very relaxed in the part, doesn't he? For like a guest actor, he seems to have just completely settled into the role right from the get-go. Yeah, no, yeah. He's really good in it.
Bit of trivia: his brother, who is also an actor, Craig Kelly, was the voice of Joe in the animated series Scream of the Shalka.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
He's
going back a bit.
I was going to say way back when they did those little mini animated shorts. That's right. Yeah, on the website.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was. I thought he did a great performance from start to finish as well. From the first scene that we see Shakespeare, when he sort of comes, when Martha kicks off the new thing at the theatre where they shout author, which they apparently didn't do before. And then he comes out, and then I think his first line is, shut your bloody mouths or something like that. It's like immediately sort of hits you in the face. It's like, whoa, that's not Shakespeare, surely.
Even the doctor's like, oh.
Yeah.
They're a little bit disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny, that bit, when the doctor's, he's got that real sort of frown like, oh, no.
He's really bigged him up, and he's like, oh.
Yeah. And Martha's like, never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then right at the beginning as well, right at the end, when he's saying goodbye to Martha and the doctor, just before Queen Victoria turns up. Queen Elizabeth the first turns up. Even then, he's just really confident. He's trying to get Martha out on a date, and he's great in this. I really like him.
Yeah, no, he is very good. As I said, he works well with Tennant as well, doesn't he? Like because the respect between those two really shifts throughout the story, doesn't it? They sort of start off a bit like the doctor's in awe of him, but the more he gets to know him, he's like, oh god, he's a bit of a womanizing idiot, actually, not what I imagined. And Shakespeare's very cautious of the doctor, but seems to have him all figured out. And then as they go on, they become sort of, they have a sort of proper progression of their friendship, don't they, throughout the story, which is, again, something I really liked watching this again, was just how their sort of relationship changes throughout it. Because by the end, they're getting on really, really well. And I love the fact that Shakespeare seems to have just figured the Martha and Doctor out straight away.
Yes. Yeah.
And it doesn't really make any sense, but I like that. Because he's just like, he seems to know the Doctor instantly, doesn't he? He knows exactly what he's about. And, and Martha, what does he say? Something about you're from, I think it's the Doctor actually says you're from the planet Freemagon or so. Well, I wonder if it was a play on her name, but.
Oh, yeah, Free something. Yeah. The Doctor says she's from Freedonia or something like that.
Freedonia, yeah. It's probably not actually. But I just like the fact that Shakespeare just doesn't seem to be having any of it. And he's like, no, you're not. You've travelled and you've done this, and I just thought that was really nice.
He clocks that quite quickly, about halfway through the episode, isn't it? And that is quite cool that they've sort of labelled certain key figures throughout history as these really sort of intellectual genius figures, and it's kind of like a good match for the Doctor, because the Doctor's obviously a genius in his own right. And it's really cool that the way they first explain it, where he shows him the psychic paper, and Shakespeare's like, "Oh
yes, I like that."
Oh, it's blank. And then Martha's like, "No, I can see it's like head of whatever." And the Doctor's like, "Yes," he sort of confirms to himself that he is a genius, and he's not going to get past him with this stuff.
I loved that bit, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's just a real small little moment, but it's just the fact it's like, well, it's just a blank piece of paper. And the Doctor's just like, what? He can see it. Yeah, that's really nice little touch, that.
Really good touch, yeah. And Shakespeare sort of has them figured out quite early on, as I said. He's like, at the end, I think he does actually say it, doesn't he? He's like, you're time travellers. And so, yeah, it's good. A good addition to the story. It's clever writing as well from Gareth Roberts, because there are moments throughout the story where Shakespeare starts throwing in these sort of lines that turn up in his stories later on, and the Doctor sort of steers him away from certain things and encourages him to do other things. So it's almost like the Doctor's shaping the stories that's finally come out, that because some of these plays are very early on in Shakespeare's career, obviously. So when he's having conversations with Martha, because there are a few times where the Doctor's like, no, don't do that. He's got that kind of laid back, like, no. cautionary kind of, no, don't do that. And at other times he's like, you should write that down. So he kind of like gives him these little hints, doesn't he, at certain things to keep and other things that he should throw out. So in a way, it's kind of like, years and years later when Shakespeare does actually write these very famous stories, it's almost like the Doctor's had an input into that. It's the Doctor that shaped those almost. So very clever writing.
Yeah, I do want to say I love that because it could have felt clunky and it doesn't. I love the fact they get so many great Shakespeare quotes in this episode without it feeling really forced, because it doesn't at all. I think it's just because, like you said, the way it's written, the way the Doctor does it in a humorous way, it works really well. I thought like they're in there, all the some great quotes in there, but it doesn't feel like tick. There's another one tick. It does feel quite natural in the script because of the way it's written in. Yeah, so I like that, and I like the fact that this play, Love Labour's One, apparently is a genuine thing, which I didn't know. It's supposed to be, isn't it? It's written in folklore that there was actually supposed to be a lost,
the sequel, wasn't it?
Yeah, lost play called Love Labour's One. So that's quite interesting. I like that. It throws in a bit of realism into the story as well, which is nice.
Yeah,
it's
good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's a good part of the story.
Yeah.
What did you think to the witches then? So we've spoken about Lilith a little bit. What did you think to the other two witches then? I'm going to say that Doomfinger and Blood... No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is their names, isn't it? Doomfinger.
Yeah, Doomfinger and Bloodtide.
Bloodtide, yeah. Not too bad. Right. I just found them... I think you mentioned earlier, they were a little bit pantomimey.
Yeah. I think they've obviously been told to do... I just feel like they're doing exactly what they've been told, to be like cackling witches. I mean, I suppose there's only so many ways you can be a witch, but yeah, they are a bit, for me, they're a little bit too OTT.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd imagine if there was such a thing as a sort of a Halloween pantomime, they would fit perfectly into that.
Oh yeah.
That category, they're very, and yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just the way that, Charles Palmer, the director, has just said, look, we can't be scaring little uns too much here. So we're going to go down the sort of Halloween-y road a little bit. So I want lots of cackling. I want lots of pointed fingers and broomsticks and, just going mad with it. But
the voodoo thing could have been played up on, because voodoo is something that freaks me out, like the voodoo doll and that when they're doing all that, I find that quite creepy. So like you said, they could have played more up to that. Do you agree with me about the makeup though? Looks, I even when this first aired, I remember thinking that the sort of masks and teeth didn't look particularly good, and I think if anything they look worse now. But I remember seeing like the clip in the trailer for this series, when they show like the coming next series or whatever, the forthcoming trailer, I remember thinking in that clip, God blimey, that witch looked rubbish.
Right.
But my partner didn't agree. I said, the witches look rubbish, and he thought they looked all right, but so maybe it's just me. I just thought they looked very rubbery, and you can sort of see they've got the false teeth in, and I don't know. And also because the shot of them is so close up as well, when they do the cackle, it's very. I just thought it didn't look particularly good.
No, I agree somewhat. Yeah, I think it's when you've got like full face prosthetics and so on. It's even though this wasn't filmed in high def, you can still pick out the little. And the makeup doesn't quite go down to their neckline in some shots as well. You can see it down the back of their neck, and I know what you mean. Yeah, it does look
a bit Halloween-y,
Yeah, again, it goes back to that sort of rubbery mask that you can buy in Sainsbury's for Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but they're okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind because there's just sort of backup, aren't they, for Lilith's character?
True.
But there is one scene where I'm not sure which one of them it is, but she appears inside the prison cell. In the in Bethlehem, so that was quite creepy, because everyone in the cell sort of jumps back with fright almost, and she has her little moment. But other than that, they just sort of cackle around the cauldron, typically as witches do, I suppose. But they're okay. And the end scene's quite cool as well, when the guys in the play say the actual script that they wrote down, that they got Shakespeare to write in the script, and then we see the portal open up with those CG kind of other witches, I assume, Carrionites.
I think that's what they're meant to be, yeah.
That scene was quite good. That was quite a good build up, and they're sort of going mental, because the Doctor's turned up, and and it's all very shouty and screamy and climaxes into this big sort of collapse of the portal. So that was quite good. They were good in that scene, I thought.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there is a lot of CGI in this episode as well, isn't there? What did you think to the CGI in it? Because it is pretty heavy on CGI in terms of the matte paintings of the actual locations and stuff.
Right.
Because I was watching this with my partner and I said, "Oh, we've been there to that place," and he's like, "What?" I said, "No, honestly, we have." I said, "You just can't see it because they've put so much CGI over it." I think it's in Warwick. I remember being quite excited because we ended up there quite randomly, and I was like, "Oh, this is where they filmed the Shakespeare Code." It's like an old, part of it. I mean, they filmed it all over the place, to be fair, but like the what do you call it? The beige coloured building with all the wooden beams. That bit is the bit I'm referring to. So that's a real place, and obviously they've put so much CGI over it that really it could be a set, but it is actually a real place. But yeah, it's quite CG laden, isn't it? There's loads of matte shots of like the globe itself, the streets. There's London at night. The witches, like you said at the end. I think Phil Collinson said, it's quite a costly episode to make because of all the CGI. And like I said earlier, I just wondered how you felt about it, because while it looked quite dated to me, I thought it looked dated in a good way, if that makes sense. I think it really suited the style of the episode. I thought it looked quite nice, almost like a painting rather than bad CGI, if that makes sense. But what did you sort of think?
Yeah, I wasn't too, because in some episodes, even in series 4, actually scratch that, even in series 9, there are certain episodes with terrible CG work.
I always think of that TARDIS on the snow cliff.
Yeah, exactly. So even right up to series 9, we've seen some not sound sort of CG work.
Yeah,
time, budget, whatever reason you want to call it. But in this one, I didn't think it was too bad actually for its time.
Yeah,
because you can tell that they knew up front that there was going to have to be a little bit of CG work going on. So they probably just said, look, here's the budget, go and do your thing. We already know there's going to be a lot of CG. So like you said, it was a costly thing to do. It's interesting because I found that almost the still shots to be not as good as the fast paced moving stuff. So the portal at the end with all the Carrionites looks pretty good to me. I thought that looked really well. But when they first step out of the TARDIS at night and they run round the corner and they see the Globe Theatre off in the distance, that was okay. Wasn't too bad. But maybe it was the scale or something. Just didn't seem quite spot on, but it was okay. But I thought that the fast moving, more sort of action packed CG stuff looked better than, the still shots that they tried to flesh out and make it look like London or the Globe and so on. But overall, it stands up fairly well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I suppose actually I think you may have just hit the nail on the head, bringing back that awful memory of some of these CGI in Series 9. I think what it is when I look at this episode, I can see that they've really made an effort. Like, so there's let's take the night shot of London. It's all CGI. It's a CGI shot of the Globe from the night going across a bridge or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful shot. But yeah, it looks dated. But there's a lot of detail in it. You can tell that they've really tried. And like I said, to me, it looks almost like a work of art. It looks like a painting almost, although it doesn't look particularly real. So then you compare that to the CGI shot of the TARDIS on the icicle shelf in whatever the last episode was. Series 9, where she's throwing the keys in the thing, and I don't know, she gives the Doctor a call and there's this shot of the TARDIS on the and it's surrounded by icicles or something, and it just looks horrendous. I mean, it's on screen for seconds, but you can tell that they've put absolutely zero effort into it, and so maybe that's what I mean. At least in this one, it may not look realistic, but it does look nice. It looks like they've actually put the work in.
Was that Hellbent?
Yeah, could
one
be.
Of them. Hellbent,
yeah, it's when Danny gets run over, I think, if I'm remembering rightly, because I never watched Series 9. I think it's where she gives the Doctor a call, and there's this shot of the TARDIS, and it's like, I think it's supposed to be on an ice planet, and it just looks horrific. But anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of that lot. I don't know.
It's one of that lot.
Yeah, it's when poor old Danny gets mowed down in the street, if I'm remembering right.
Regia. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost as bad as the inside the vault in Time Heist.
So I'm having palpitations just thinking of Series 8 and 9.
Poor Capaldi. He got dealt a bit of a duff hand in some respects, didn't he?
He did.
But yes, anyway, CG not too bad.
Yeah, pretty decent, I thought, in this.
Not too bad at all. Music-wise, it is interesting because I felt that the music was a little bit too suited and normal for this, if that makes sense. That there wasn't any one scene where I thought, crikey, Murray Gold's firing on all cylinders here. It all just seemed to melt into the scenes perfectly. It was like very low key. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny. It does, because actually, do you know, I can't even remember the music in it.
Exactly.
And that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing, because you're right. There's nothing standout in this because I can't even remember the music in it. But that can be a good thing because sometimes it sticks out for the wrong reasons. So if it was just there underlying the action, then maybe that's a good thing. But yeah, I couldn't even comment on the music. I can't remember it at all. I only watched this last night. So I don't know. Yeah, nothing bad, but nothing stand out, nothing good. or maybe just good. Yeah. Direction was nice. Who did the direction? Charles Palmer.
Yeah.
Charles Palmer. Has he done any other Who's? Because I mean, again, it was decent.
He's done a few. He's done loads.
Oh, he's done a few. He did Smith and Jones. Oh, he did Human Nature, Family of the Blood.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, he did Eaters of Light
and Oxygen. Yeah.
Oh dear, poor guy. Yeah, but at least he done. Yeah, Human Nature, Family of the Blood, beautifully directed. So yeah, good job by Charles Palmer.
Yeah, not too bad. What did you think to the Harry Potter references? Because there were a couple in this, wasn't there?
Yeah, now you see, again, I liked it because I think they would have gone completely over my head in 2007 because I didn't get into Harry Potter till very late. I'm still not a massive fan, but I have now watched them all, whereas I kind of avoided Harry Potter for a while because it was like everybody was watching it and I was just like, oh no. So it would have gone completely over my head when this first aired, but now that I know what they mean, I thought they were quite good fun in this, actually.
Yeah, there was a few as well, which is unusual for Doctor Who to throw in that many. So, well, we have the direct. Well, they're very direct references as well. They're not you have to be a very in-depth Harry Potter fan to get it. Because Martha actually says, "Oh, it's all a bit Harry Potter, isn't it?"
Mm.
And then the final word that they get Shakespeare to yell at the witches at the end is Expelliarmus, which is a spell from Harry Potter. So it's all very direct, which may have something to do with David Tennant being in one of the Harry Potter films, possibly.
Could be. Doesn't he? He does actually thank J.K. in this as well. He goes, "Thank you, J.K. Rowling."
J.K. Yeah.
Good old J.K. Yeah. Yeah, it probably was a little in joke, maybe.
Yeah, because he was Barty Crouch Jr.
But yeah, I like. Yeah, I was going to say this time round. Now I understand them. I was like, oh, that's funny. I did like the end bit particularly. I thought that was quite cool.
Expelliarmus.
Expelliarmus. Yeah.
Right. Anything you want to mention, mate? Before we.
Well, I know when we get to the Doctor, we often don't talk about it much because we say that they're either really good or really bad. Once again, I have to say, my appreciation for Tennant just goes up another notch in this. And for people saying, "Oh God, another Tennant lover and stuff," the reason I say that is because David Tennant is not one of my favourite Doctors. I really like him. I think he's a great actor, and I do love him as the Doctor. But he's not like my favourite Doctor by any means. But the more we rewatch him, the more I just fall in love with him as the Doctor, and the more I see things in him that I didn't see watching it back in 2007, whatever. I just thought he was brilliant in this. And again, I may sound a bit like surprised, but that's because when I watched this back in 2007, as I said, it did nothing for me. He didn't stand out. He's, he seemed quite human, probably because he's moping after Rose. Watching this yesterday, he's really, really on fire again. And he's, as I said, the stuff between him and Shakespeare is brilliant. The humour and stuff's really good. Chemistry with the companion, really, really good, apart from that one scene about Rose. And when he's getting cross and he's trying to figure it all out, I just was thinking, man, he is such a good Doctor. He really is. And I'm so glad that we're rewatching these stories for the podcast because I now see why people love David Tennant as the Doctor. The more I watch him, the more we review him, I totally get it. I mean, I always liked him, just never loved him, if you know what I mean. He never sort of had that impact. Like when Smith took over, to me, I was like, now this is how the Doctor should be. A bit quirky, can be happy, can be sad. Matt Smith was incarnated what I would consider the Doctor to be, whereas Tennant never quite reached that at the time. But the more I rewatch him, the more I see what a great Doctor he is, and he's superb in this. He really is good in it. In every scene, he's either funny, he's either rolling with the action. He's just absolutely bang on point in this story. So I just wanted to mention that because, as I said, when we get to the Doctor, we always sort of say, well, they're consistently good or bad or whatever, but he really is good in this, I thought. Yeah,
he's good. And especially, for me, Series 3 and 4 and the Series 4 specials, he's absolutely... Because don't get me wrong, he's good in Series 2. He is very good. But I think in Series 3, that was when he really just took the show. He really pushed the show to another level. Because I think, like you said, the ratings were at their highest around Series 3 and 4. So it's at this point where he's really into the flow of the character, and and he can switch it on as well. He does that really funny, then he switches to quite sort of melancholy and sad, and then he's angry. He does the shouty very well, and he just, I don't know, he's just seamless, from scene to scene, and consistent as well.
I was going to say, you'll probably find the more we review Tennant, the more I'll say it. But it's just that I've always liked him as the Doctor, but I've never fell in love with him. He would never be like, if someone said to me, since the show came back in 2005, who's your favourite Doctor? He would never be at the top, I'm afraid. He'd probably be second. Or, I think Chris, for example, and Matt were brilliant as Doctors. Tennant, just, I liked him, but he never clicked 100% as the Doctor to me. But it just seems that the more I watch him, the more I just absolutely love him. And I almost wish, actually, that he was playing the Doctor now, that he's just that little bit older and a little bit more experienced as an actor, because I see him in other things. And, every time I watch Broadchurch, I see this slightly more haggard David Tennant. He's sort of aged a little bit. And I just keep thinking, if he come back now, I think he'd be phenomenal.
Right.
As the Doctor. And I think he was back then, but I think he'd have just that little bit more aged gravitas to him. Now, I'd love to see him come back. And I think the same about Matt Smith, actually. I love Matt as the Doctor, but I always think, he was so young when he took over. Imagine him being the Doctor now. Would be fantastic. But I just thought he was great in it, though. I just couldn't help but notice how good he was in every scene. Really funny at times, and good when he needed to be serious.
Yeah. I think one of the key elements for Tennant is that he really brings that darkness out, but not in an in-your-face kind of way. So David Tennant's got this knack of playing bad guys really well. So when he I'm not saying that he plays a bad guy in this, but, the character of the Doctor does have that kind of darker element to him at times that we've seen. And it's in his face. He's one of those actors, a bit like Troughton, a bit like Matt Smith, I guess, in a way. But there are certain actors where, a lot of their acting is done in their face. They don't have to be saying a line to, so you get what they're saying, if that makes sense. And David Tennant is so good. When he has that sort of serious face on him and you think, is he going to kill someone?
Is he going to kick off?
Is he going to go? Yeah. And Tennant's brilliant at that, because everyone knows Tennant as, a good character. But I'll tell you what, if you've ever seen David Tennant play a bad guy, it's bloody frightening.
Oh, yeah. If you've ever seen the ITV drama Secret Smile, which is going back a few years.
Yes.
Yeah, not a nice guy in that.
Yeah, there's a new film coming out with David Tennant called Bad Samaritan. And if you're a fan of David Tennant as the Doctor, that will shatter your image of David Tennant. He plays a mean, horrible... Yeah, just if you go and watch the trailer after this, called Bad Samaritan. It's his new film that's out soon. And crikey, so he's just such a versatile actor. He's just brilliant. Like you said, very good.
He certainly seems very comfortable in this story. Like you said, maybe he just found his feet totally by this point, by series 3. Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention? The Shakespeare Code?
Mate. No, I think I've covered it, yeah.
Right. It's me to go first, I think.
It is, yes, it is.
And I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Oh, right. I wrote 7 after watching it, but I went down to a 6.5. Okay. I'm really torn between the two. I don't know. It doesn't quite feel. I wrote 7. You've gone 7. I'll go 7.
You're going 7.
I'm going 7. It doesn't. I think it really should. If we were going really I'd go like 6.8. Like some of our listeners, they go really specific. Yeah. It's not bad enough to be a 6.5, but to me, it doesn't quite feel like it should be a 7 either. It's really just not quite making it. But it was a fun watch. So 7.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's not because whenever I mention a 6 in a score, that makes me feel like
we're too low.
Yeah, we're retreating towards the middle ground of 5, and it's not really because it is an enjoyable.
It is an enjoyable watch. Yeah, 7.
And to be honest with you, before I rewatched it last night, in my head I was thinking, "Oh, that's a 5 or a 6 episode."
Me too. Yeah.
But when I rewatched it, I remembered how great the Shakespeare character is, and how good, Tennant is, as we've just said, and some other elements. So yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, mate. I mean, yeah, Dean Kelly is Shakespeare is brilliant. It's 6.5 is too low. It definitely, a 7.
Yeah. Oh, and lastly, I forgot. I really like the ending because it's not one of those end on a conversation or it sort of continues the adventure. You see the Doctor and Martha sort of legging it towards the TARDIS. Yeah. It gets struck by an arrow, and then you think, because it sort of ends sort of high caliber. So that it's like an adventure. It sort of guides you into sort of putting the next one on because you think.
What is the next one? Oh, Gridlock.
Yeah. So but I just like the ending.
I loved the ending. Yeah, it's just the Doctor's so happy to see angry old Queen Elizabeth, and he's like, "What's up with her?" He's like, "Oh, I have no idea, but I expect I'll find out." I loved that bit. Yeah, brilliant.
Well, actually, that's kind of answered in The Day of the Doctor, isn't it?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
Because between those two.
Oh yeah. I must admit at the time, last night, sorry, I couldn't think what it was. I was thinking, is it Torchwood or something? But no, that's a whole other ball game, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It's so the Moth tied up that loose end. Is that what we're saying?
Well, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. What did our lovely listeners think? Let's jump over to Twitter. Marcus Walker said, in my opinion, Series 3 is pretty much perfect, but there was obviously going to be a dud. And that is this is that dud, he says.
Oh.
Yes. Christians in My Soup says, not a bad story. Has a great sarcastic line from the Doctor. Oh, 57 academics just punch the air. Martha is over the top when she steps from the TARDIS as the Doctor's exacerbation shows, but she soon settles, and the two of them make a great double act. 7.5.
Oh, okay, good.
Nathan, Silent Nerd C137 says, a very underrated story, in my opinion. The Carrier Knights are a great villain, especially when paired with Shakespeare. Love the feel of the episode, and the ending speech fits perfectly. Also, the cameo by Queen Elizabeth I now makes sense after The Day of the Doctor.
Yes, yeah.
He gives it 8.5.
Okay.
TARDIS Files HQ says, I try to like this story, but I don't. David and Freema are great, give great performances, but I feel the story drags on in the middle and is all just about building up to a scene in the Globe Theatre where the witches launch an attack, quote unquote. Boring but fun, I guess, 6.5.
Okay.
Mike Friendly, another extremely underrated Doctor Who story. Love everything about it. The Carrier Knights are cool villains, but I was terrified of them when I was younger. Love Tennant in this one as well. Just an underrated gem from the RTD era. 8 witch cackles out of 10.
Love it.
The Gallifreyan Whovian. Our friend Morgan says, I thought I'd enjoy this a lot more, but I find the middle to be especially draggy and the story to be dull at times. Shakespeare and 10 bounce off each other really well, and I love the humour dotted around the episode. Martha and the supporting cast are brilliant. 7.2.
Okay.
Sarah, running Whovian, says, this one is interesting. I usually love the episodes that go back to historical legends. And I did enjoy the story set and funny one-liners, but I struggle to believe in the Shakespeare character. I know that's crazy when the show is about a blue box flying through space. 6.5.
Fair enough.
What else did we have on Twitter? I think we had one more. Harry Brown says, the worst Doctor Who story ever made.
What?
Still good, though. 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10.
I'd be worried there, Harry.
TARDISNet 66 says, great story, fantastic performance from Tennant, captures the atmosphere of the historical period of the Shakespeare period wonderfully, and it's excellent to see the interactions between the Doctor and Shakespeare. Love the Carrionites, fitting villains for this story. And lastly on Twitter, the Primeval podcast.
Oh, yes.
Lovely moments in this episode, such as a reference to good old JK, a nice ending which now gets resolved in Day of the Doctor, but was still funny at the time, and it looks so realistic to that time period. Overall, not the best episode of Series 3, as I love the second half of that series much more, but the story has a nice historical with a great cast. 6 Drashigs out of 10.
Oh, bringing the Drashigs into it.
Why did you have to do that?
They do it to annoy you. Don't rise to it.
Primeval. Anyways, let's jump over to Facebook, where George Puddy says, a hidden gem of a Who story. A brilliant blend of historical setting with a sci-fi threat. Direction really makes it feel like the Doctor and Martha are in Tudor England. Speaking of the Doctor and Martha, they are both on form. The only thing that lets us down is the Doctor sulking about Rose. He gives it 8 out of 10.
Oh, that's good.
Lewis Palmer, a wonderful nostalgic story from the first batch of stories I ever saw. In fact, I think this was something like the 3rd or 4th one that I watched as a wee 5-year-old.
Blimey.
Crikey, Lewis.
Oh.
Makes me feel old saying things
I know,
like
and
that.
me.
He says it scared the life out of me then, but also captured my imagination and made me want to learn more about Shakespeare, which is what you said, mate.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Which is what Doctor Who is all about. I still really like it now. It's fun seeing a new companion discover time travel properly, and it's what I call comfort Who. 7.5.
Cool. Cheers, Lewis.
Lewis Blackmore. I always see this pop up on worst episode lists, and it feels like it's very undeserved. I genuinely believe this is to be one of the best in Series 3 and would argue that the historical aspect of this story in particular is fantastic. Dean Lennox-Kelly gives a great performance of Shakespeare. However, I do feel the Carrionites are a bit pantomime, and the forced references to Rose let it down slightly. But an 8 out of 10.
Okay, that's good.
Paul Villano says, always painful to see the Doctor still sulking over Rose and the professional physician Martha longing for him. Very different than she should have been written, but otherwise a fun romp.
Sorry, I just like the word romp.
Clay Crow says, this one is fun, but not one of the best. I enjoy the interaction between Shakespeare and the Doctor, and I also thought the Harry Potter references were entertaining. I really like Martha in the episodes, and even a little presumptuous about her relationship with the Doctor. 6 out of 10. Sammy Satine says, Witches, Shakespeare, Elizabethan England, the Doctor and Martha, what's not to love? It's an excellent story. I particularly enjoy how the Carrionites use words to conquer. Big Finish recently paired them with the 6th Doctor, and that works very well.
Oh.
Martha tends to get overlooked, and I think she's a great character and companion. Would have been better if she hadn't had the rebound story arc. She says it's a pure historical that's a lot of fun. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Sammy bringing out the 10. Miles Mackenzie says, love this story. David was on point in this and a great first adventure for Martha, and her reaction to everything was probably one of my favourites in all of Who. A nice simple plot to follow and a fantastic historic episode. Something Doctor Who has lacked in recent years. Hopefully Series 11 will bring back the historic ones. It says overall, 9 out of 10.
Cool. Hi.
Last couple, Martin Arnold says, shall I compare thee to A Summer's Day? Nah, it's not that good, but it's a decent watch. Poor old Martha, second fiddle to Rose. Yeah. I like this season, actually, and this is a comfortable watch, by no means terrible. It's the, hey, miss, new companion, would you like to go back to medieval times bit? Standard fare, like I said, 7 sonnets out of 10.
Nice.
And lastly, Lou Loopy Lou, Loopy Frog Lou says, fantastic fun. I don't like the way the Doctor treats Martha, but that just shows he's still in a bad place after losing Rose. I think he needs someone strong like Martha. 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Oh, cool.
Another respectable score.
Yes.
Anything on the Geek's Hand baggage?
Yeah, had a couple. So Kevin Mullen, he says, a below average story with some mildly amusing dialogue and terrible acting. Tennant's in super smug mode and moping over Rose. It looks nice, but it's all style over substance, says Kevin. He gives it a 2 out of 10. A 2. He also replies to a comment from Paul, which I can't see for some reason. So I've got the reply, but I haven't got Paul's comment. He just says, exactly, Paul. I don't know what Paul said. Maybe it was blocked by Facebook. I really don't like his writing whatsoever. It must have been something about Gareth Roberts. Overly smug, trying to be Douglas Adams without the charm, wit or cleverness. I think he's referring to Gareth Roberts, but I don't know because I can't see Paul's comment. Dean Jones, a solid, easygoing story, good humour. Tennant and Freeman work well together, although really don't dislike the Doctor's Rose comment, he says. Yeah, like a lot of us. It devalues Martha as a companion. The Carrier Knights might not be the greatest of villains, but work well enough in the terms of the story, and the production values are excellent. Dean Lennox Kelly is good fun as Shakespeare. Dean gives it 8 out of 10.
Cool.
Patrick Wellesley says Shakespeare Code is not bad if you like mystery and Shakespeare and witches. He likes the story, gives it 7.5. Charlie Turner says it's an average story with a humorous ending as far as he can remember, and he really wishes the BBC would hurry up and release series 3 and 4 on Steelbook. Yeah, I'm sure they're coming, Charlie. I hope so. Anyway, Charlie gives it 6.5 out of 10. Oh, I was going to say, and finally, but Patrick Sherwood's comment is posted twice. I think my Facebook's gone a bit mad because I seem to have got comments missing and some comments posted twice. But there we are. So, yeah, mine was a bit more mixed, wasn't it? Not so much liked and a bit average.
Still good, though.
Overall, pretty good, yeah. A lot of 7s and 8s and 9s, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I was expecting lower scores, you know.
I was as well, yeah.
But that's good, though. Good stuff.
And once again, one of the great things about doing this podcast is I now like a story a lot more than I thought I did, because I wouldn't. It's not one I would have put on, but I'd watch it again now. Yeah.
Well, I love that when that happens, because I have that quite a lot where I think, oh Christ, we've got a review. We've got to review that next week, and especially if it's a classic 4 or 6-parter.
Yeah.
But then you stick it on, you're like, crikey, I haven't watched this in ages. I actually quite like it.
The Sunmakers was the biggest surprise. Remember when we did that? I thought I hated the Sunmakers, and I really enjoyed it. yeah. I suppose it depends what mood you're in.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Next week, Classic Who?
Oh yeah, I love classic. I'm really enjoying watching the classics at the minute.
Don't we all?
Yeah. I've closed my tab, but it's okay because I can remember. It's the Fourth Doctor story, Image of Fendal, next week, isn't it?
Image of the Fendal.
Image of the Fendal, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A bit of Fetchborough action. I always found that name really funny for some reason. The village that the Doctor and Leela land in, and you know, it's called Fetchborough.
Is it? I just can't remember this. I remember it's got like people with painted eyes.
Yes.
Has this got a bit of witchcraft in it?
A little, well, possibly.
I get this confused with Stones of Blood. I have a feeling.
I see.
I have a feeling. I don't know. Yeah, looking forward to giving this one a watch.
Yeah, it's like experiments on fossils and.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, which awakes something else. But yeah, I think I saw this one a year or so ago. I think the last time I watched this one.
I probably haven't watched it since it came out on DVD, so that's probably going back a while.
Oh, crikey. Yeah. That's 2009.
Oh, golly, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, I may have watched it a couple of times since, but it's certainly not for a while. So, yes. Is it Leela? Is it the Fourth Doctor and Leela?
It is, yes.
Must be, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so looking forward to rewatching that one.
Mm-hmm. A bit of Tom.
Yes, so get those DVDs out.
I can't get deep enough for Tom.
Get the old discs out. Give that a watch, because we'll be after you. Your reviews, as always. And I think we're going to do there for 176.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sticking with us and listening to episode 176. It's been awesome, as always, chatting through Doctor Who, bringing you latest news and merch and all that jazz. And our review, which we love doing each week.
Yep.
So next week, Image of the Fendal, get those discs out, give it a rewatch. I was going to say then, I'll give it a watch on whatever streaming service you like to do, but I think the only way to watch this as a stream is if you're in the States or something like that. I think the streaming thing, BritBox.
Oh, right.
I think that has a bunch of classic Who on it. I could be wrong, but yes, I might be wrong here, but I remember years ago, Classic Who was on Netflix. That was right, wasn't it?
Yes.
Classic Who was on Netflix.
Classic Who on Netflix. I don't know, actually.
It would be awesome to get that back on Netflix.
Well, now BBC Store's gone, it seems to be, shows seem to be popping up in random places, so it could be.
Yes. Anywho, just get it watched any way you like.
Yeah.
Yes. Until next week, why don't you head over to the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of the episodes on there. Plus, you can read all of the awesome articles that we put out each week as well, which delves deeper into subjects around Doctor Who and other reviews about Big Finish and so on. And you can also link off to all the podcast networks to give us a subscribe so you don't miss a show. And there's big buttons for iTunes. And if you're an iTunes listener and subscriber, if you could spare a minute for a review, that would be amazing, because that really helps.
It does.
Remember to check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Yes.
The Geek's Handbag. Loads of awesome videos over on Adam's YouTube channel. Just do a search for that and give him a subscribe. He will love you forever. He's also on
forever
Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and all sorts.
Everything.
Every bloody thing. Yes. Rightio. 177 next week. Yes. We'll see you for 177 next week. Until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,
let's get it in time this week. Come on.